Welcome to this AIM Hire for Artemis panel. I'm Steve Ruffin. I'm Associate Chair for Aerospace Engineering at Georgia Tech. As part of what I do NASA research and also help teach the next generation of STEM experts with many others around Georgia Tech. But we're really so excited to have you here to mark World Space Week, International Day of the Girl, and also the AIM Hire for Artemis activity. I think about when I was a kid, I was always amazed by space and really anything that flew. But the path to getting there wasn't very clear. I tried to aim high and seek out those that would help. So I'm really glad that you tuned into this panel where there's a truly phenomenal women will be talking to you in this session to really share their experiences and help show you the way. These really are heroes, and you're in just the right place to begin to help chart your path. This is really an awesome time for all things space, all things flight, or STEM in general, because of NASA's amazing missions underway, the commercial space ventures that are having amazing successes, and technology in general that's part of our lives. I really want to thank you for being part of this, and you're really in for a treat. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm NASA Deputy Administrator Pam Melroy, and I want to thank you all for joining us for AIM Higher for Artemis, World Space Week, and International Day of the Girl. When I was a little girl back in the 60s, girls were expected to play with dolls, not toy planes. But I was fascinated by the sky, and I always dreamed of flying among the clouds. At that time, America's big, bold mission was landing on the moon as a part of the Apollo program. And watching that Saturn V blast off, seeing Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon, it inspired me to want to be a pilot and an astronaut. And my dream came true. NASA's Artemis mission is near and dear to my heart. We are going to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. This time when we land on the moon, it won't be to just plant a flag. We're going to learn how to live and work in deep space. All this research and development will help prepare us to make the next giant leap, landing humans on Mars. And to be successful, we need you, the next generation of explorers. Students like you are the future of space exploration and scientific discoveries. Somewhere today, I believe the first person to set foot on Mars is in school. And I hope that it will be one of you. At NASA, we do not only see what has been, we see what can be. So I encourage you to aim for the stars and follow your dreams. We all can't wait to see what you will achieve.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Stott. I'm a retired NASA astronaut, an artist, and a mom, and I just want to encourage you to stay curious, dream big, and always aim higher.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sian Proctor. I am the mission pilot from Inspiration 4, and I want you to aim higher with whatever you decide to do with your unique talents and strengths.
I believe you will make your dreams come true. Aim higher for your dreams.
Aim high. Dreams really do come true.
Dream big, aim higher, and shoot for your stars.
Aim high. And my philosophy is if that seems like it's too high, well, every day I try to aim a little higher. I try to take a different step that I never took before. Aim high for you.
Aim higher.
Hi, I am Naoko Yamazaki, a second female Japanese astronaut. When I stayed on board International Space Station, I appreciated the power of international collaboration and diversity. The world is much bigger than we imagine. So Aim higher for the better future. Thank you.
Hi, I'm astronaut Susan Kilrain, speaking from Washington, D.C. I was born and raised in Augusta, Georgia, and I thought I wanted to be a hairdresser when I grew up. In middle school, I realized that I was better at math than I was at doing my hair, so I decided I wanted to be an engineer. In high school, I got my private pilot's license, and this is when I knew that someday I wanted to fly in space. I did go on to become an engineer, but after 3 years, I quit to join the Navy. I wanted to become a test pilot in hopes that NASA would someday select me to be a space shuttle pilot. I did get to be a space shuttle pilot and flew twice on the Space Shuttle Columbia. Both of my missions were science missions where we did science 24 hours a day to make life here on Earth better. But I want to talk to you about the Artemis program. I don't know if you know, but in Greek mythology, Artemis was the twin sister of Apollo. And the Apollo program is what took the men to the moon back in the late 1960s and early 70s. Well, Artemis is a program that's going to take the first woman and the first person of color to the moon. How exciting is that? But they're not just going to go to the moon and come back. They're going to build a habitat on the surface of the moon where people are going to be able to work for months at a time. It'll be a permanent settlement there. And this is going to pave the way to someday putting a similar habitat on the surface of Mars. So I want to convince you that if you have a dream, that you go out and live that dream like I did. Yeah, sure, there were obstacles along the way, as you can imagine, as only the second female space shuttle pilot. I sometimes faced some issues back as an engineer in the Navy, but I just kept my focus on what my goals were and kept working hard. So if you think that someday you might want to fly in space or work in any STEM field, I say go for it. Really, it just takes a lot of hard work. And I recommend you surround yourself with people who are going to support you along the way. And hopefully someday I'll see you walking on the surface of the moon or maybe even Mars. But bye for now.
Education changes everything. Study hard, work hard, and follow your dreams. Don't aim low, aim higher, and don't give up.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Wyche, Director of NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I work with engineers, scientists, and many other STEM professionals to lead human space exploration for the United States. NASA is called to land American astronauts, including the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. Then we will use what we learn to take the next giant leap, sending astronauts to Mars. Exploration helps us learn. What we learn can help make the world a better place. As a young child, I was interested in how things worked. I asked a lot of questions and literally took things apart. My father and mother were both educators, and they encouraged me to do well in school. Because of them, I did very well in math and science. My father was also a carpenter, and his father was a farmer. I followed my dad around a lot and learned how to do mechanical and electrical things from him. One of the biggest things that cemented my love for science was when my older brother received a chemistry set for Christmas one year. We did experiments in the backyard, and I was hooked. If you're interested in science, technology, engineering, and math, find areas within your own school to participate in STEM classes and find extracurricular activities in STEM. If your interest is in science, join a science club and be part of science competitions like science fairs. If your interest is in robotics and technology, look into clubs in that area. Meet with a person that works in your field of interest. Ask that person to be a mentor and go to work with them for a day. Most importantly, if being a STEM professional is your passion, go for it. Aim higher for your dreams.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here. I'm Yvonne Cagle, Dr. Yvonne Cagle. Yvonne, to you all. and I'm an astronaut. I can't tell you how excited I am to see folks who look and aspire as I did through my years. And so I feel like we all have a common bond, a common attachment. I know your future is just as bright and boundless as you impossibly want it to be. So with that, let's launch. I'd like to start off and tell you a little bit about my journey, and then a little bit about where we are in the NASA mission. So with that, who am I and where did I catch my wings? I started dreaming about space probably about the time that I started dreaming. I think for me, in my mind's eye, or what I like to call my space brain, I saw stars long before I think I saw the Earth. But at about the age of 10, I found myself inexplicably at the top of an old oak tree, talking to the man on the moon and dreaming about those stars that were shining so brightly. It was a hot summer night in July. Now, why would I be at the top of an old oak tree? Not a wise thing to do at the age of 10, or really an old oak tree, not a wise thing to do at any age. But there I was. Well, the reason was I was on my way to breaking the Guinness Book of World Records. We've got the Olympics going on now. I was going to be more than the Olympics. I was going to break the world record at the longest anybody had been able to hide amongst the boughs of that old oak tree before whoever was it in hide and go seek could find me. They had found everybody else, and everybody, as you can imagine, was looking east and west, right and left. But nobody was thinking about looking north or south. Okay, granted, my brother was thinking about looking south, but like most brothers, it's because he always thought I had climbed out from under a rock anyway. But with that said, nobody was looking north. And it was upwards of about 3 hours, and no one had found me. It must have been, I don't even know what time of night, but folks were tired, they were frustrated, they were ready to go home, but they couldn't find me. Suddenly, out of the wilderness, I heard a voice calling my name. Now, I'm looking right down at whoever is it, because they're using the old oak tree for the base. And they're not calling me, yet there's a voice calling my name, Yvonne, Yvonne, Yvonne. And I can't imagine what it could be other than destiny. My destiny has finally found me, and it's calling out to me. Now, granted, I'm only 10 years old, but I thought, you know, never too late, right? Until suddenly I realized that that voice was just my dad calling me to come down from the tree and into the house. Oh my goodness, I was so upset. I mean, this had better be good. I had listened to my parents all the way up to now. My dad, retired Air Force sergeant, X-ray technician. My mother, she was a civilian, but worked on the flight line, taking care of flight hours and flight records for the pilots. And here they were letting me down, literally, by not giving me a chance to make that world record. Well, number one, I didn't make the world record. Number two, and I'm still here today, which told you that I listened to my parents, came down from the tree. And as I went into the house, my father was oddly standing in our living room, silently pointing at our old grainy TV. The old TV, the kind that had those rabbit ear antennas, you know, that pointed out. And somebody always had to stand behind the TV, which was my job, to adjust the antennas to make sure you finally got a good reception, which was always changing. So I had to pretty much stand behind it for the duration of the Ed Sullivan Show and Walt Disney World and everything like that. But my dad wasn't pointing for me to go back behind and adjust the antennas. My dad was pointing for me to go in front of the TV, and that's the reason I knew this was something really epic, so important, because I was being instructed to stand before, front and center, the TV. And what I saw, I can't unsee even today. On that tiny TV was this grainy image, black and white image of what my father said was human, man, walking on the moon for the very first time. Oh my goodness. It was unbelievable, so unbelievable that the first thing that I did was run outside, because remember, I had just been talking to the man on the moon and he never mentioned a word about, hey, this is history in the making. So I looked and I looked and I tried to see the man on the moon. And guess what I saw? Nothing. I thought I had missed him. I ran back inside, looked at the TV. He was still there, bouncing around on the moon. So guess what I did? I ran outside again, trying to see if I could see him. And guess what I saw? Nothing. I ran back inside, still there, ran back outside, looked at the moon, peered really hard, and guess what I saw? You know, folks, we could do this all day long. I never saw anything. After 2 hours almost of running in and out, I never saw anything. But somewhere in that couple of hours, I imagine the man on the moon had finished walking, but I never saw that, because all that I could see in my mind's eye at some point was no longer what I must look like to the man on the moon. Granted, a silly 10-year-old girl running in and out of the house. But I started to think, to imagine, to dream imagine about what my footprint might look like if I were that human on the moon looking back on Earth. At that moment, my dreams took wings and I've never looked back. Fast forward. I went to San Francisco State University, where I majored in biochemistry, and then on to the University of Washington School of Medicine, where I did 4 years of medical school on an Air Force scholarship. Now, that was wonderful. They paid for 4 years of my education, no debt, full ride, all the books, supplies, everything that I needed. And they even gave me a monthly stipend. Back then it was about $200, which was everything. It meant I didn't have to work and was able to focus on my studies. Now, you'll have many options as you go through your academic career, but that really positioned me not just in terms of economically being able to finance my career, but it allowed me to focus on my learning and take it to levels that I never would have had access to before. And then the military training itself gave me training and experience and tools that I continue to use even today. University of Washington School of Medicine is a decentralized school that teaches medical education, meaning our education isn't just at the University of Washington, but it goes throughout the Washington, Alaska, Montana, Idaho area, where you can learn so many medical disciplines throughout those areas. For me, I did my OBGYN, my obstetrics training in Alaska. I did remote medicine and emergency rescue in Idaho. I was in just areas that were so far remote that your medical kit was basically a black government pen and the shirt on your back. And there you had to learn how to stabilize individuals who had major trauma just using their clothes, your clothes, and whatever tools nature provided, and the black government pen and an ID card. There's so much that you can do. But I loved it so much that when I paid back my time to the Air Force, I became what they call a flight surgeon. That meant I was the doctor for the flight crew, the pilots, the maintenance folks, the PJs, anyone tied to the flight mission. I was their pilot. I was their doctor. And what made my doctoring different from a regular doctor, what is a flight doctor, is our mission is not to ground or remove the air crew member or the pilot from being able to perform and fly and perform, as we say. Our job is to keep them flying. We don't put them in the hospital. Our job, our mission is to keep them out of the hospital. So that's what I did. I took care of pilots in the air crew for 22 years, rising to the rank of senior flight surgeon and the rank of colonel. Now that's really phenomenal because I only owed 4 years to pay back, but I was having so much fun yanking and banking in a wide variety of high performance aircraft, everything from the F-111 to the F-15, F-16, F-18, helicopters, heavies, air-to-air refuelers, anything going to altitude, I wanted to be in it. Until about 15 years into it, I suddenly realized, wow, I had intended to be an astronaut. I was just having so much fun. I actually forgot that I was aspiring to go even higher, even faster. But even at 15 years, I didn't turn my back on my dreams. I applied anyway, because the only way to get faster and higher in that day was the Space Shuttle. The Space Shuttle. I tell you, if I could put poetry to motion, I would call it the Space Shuttle. Back in the day, 2 solid rocket boosters, 3 main engines, launching a rocket that had a crew cabin and attached to the back of it a payload bay that was bigger than a handful of school buses put together and filled with all sorts of amazing science, STEAM equipment that you could think about. Now, maybe it was more science, technology, engineering, math type equipment, microscopes, satellites, all sorts of payloads. The art was really inside the crew cabin, where astronauts were flying things like trumpets and guitars. So we were mixing in the STEAM sandbox all along, and it was amazing. Now, think about it. In less than 10 minutes, in only 8 minutes and 30 seconds, less time that it would take for you to make and eat a peanut butter sandwich without any jelly, you are 250 miles above the Earth, going 17,500 miles per hour on your way to Mach 25. And as you unbuckle your harness, guess what? You're floating. Who needs main engines? Who needs solid rocket boosters? Who needs oak treetops? You're in space. You're microgravity, near weightless, you're floating. And there is where the impossible becomes possible. The very edge of the envelope of impossibility is within your reach. And it's not just the outer space that the edge of the envelope lives and thrives. It's also in your inner space, your inner resolve. And right now, you're showing you are touching, pushing the edge of your own envelope. So what are we doing at NASA? Well, guess what? We're going back to the moon. Yes, that same moon that Katherine Johnson and her team for the better part of a decade did the early spaceflight calculations to make possible. Katherine Johnson and I were amazing colleagues. I would say peers, but I aspired to be her. She was my heroine, my mentor as well. And almost every Sunday afternoon, around the time that Hidden Figures came out, we started having these Sunday afternoon chats that were amazing. But Katherine Johnson, even at 100 years old, she expected you to have your act together. So I had to prepare for those chats. I had to study. I had to make sure that my logic and my rationales for whatever I was proposing stood the test. And I asked her one day, Dr. Katherine Johnson, so how are you able to come up with the calculation that landed human on the moon for the very first time? I mean, think about it, everyone. You don't just wake up one morning and decide you're going to land a human on the moon. No, it takes preparation, lots of preparation. Well, you know how Dr. Katherine Johnson prepared herself and her team to land human on the moon? She did it by first orbiting the first human around the Earth. Wow. John Glenn. Well, but how do you prepare, how do you practice orbiting a human around the Earth? I mean, she's got Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin on the moon. She's orbited John Glenn around the Earth. How does she and her team prepare to do that? Well, Dr. Katherine, the way that she prepared was she and her team launched the first American into space, Alan Shepard, back in 1961. Wow. Wow. Whoa. That's called preparation. That's a tall order for us to step up to. But when you do, you see the impossible is totally possible. Dr. Katherine Johnson, with her work ethic and due diligence, determination, was able to bring the impossible to the very treetop of my own dreams. Because that hot July summer night was July 20th, 1969, the same night that man, human, walked on the moon for the first time ever. You don't know where your dreams and aspirations may lead you, and you have no idea where your dreams and aspirations may lead someone else. A big part of why I'm here today in a blue NASA astronaut suit talking to you is because of people like Dr. Katherine Johnson and Ida B. Wells and your Dr. John Hineses, whose shoulders we stand on to reach for our stars. So with NASA, yes, we're going back to the moon, 2024, and then around 2037 on to Mars. And we're looking to not just travel. I always say the only way to know is to go, but we're not just going to travel. We're going to stay to build planetary habitats so that we can do planetary operations on the surface of Mars and other planets, and possibly even asteroids, mining for precious metals, mining for water, looking for extremophiles, non-terrestrial life forms as we know it here on Earth. We're looking for new life. We're looking for new innovations, new possibilities. Guess what? We're looking for you, each one of you, to be a part of this, to be a part of this discovery. And that's incredibly exciting. Now, we can't bring all of the weight of water and equipment and mass with us. We don't have the luxury of the Space Shuttle. So we have to do things like additive manufacturing, 3D printing, where we bring the ceramics, where we bring the materials with us, where we use the regolith of the moon, the soil of the moon, potentially to 3D print everything from equipment to materials to food to even organ parts, maybe, if we need it. We're going to learn all about how to come up with space-based fuel sources and energy sources, and find out how to come up with innovative ways to transport ourselves, not just into space, but once we get there, around our space planet that we're habitating, and then ultimately interstellarly. So we'll have drones. We already have helicopters on Mars, drones around the International Space Station. And we'll find ways to effectively use our consumables, our life support requirements, so that for all of our materials, for all of our energy and power, for all of the things that we need as humans to support, sustain our lives, to survive, not just survive, but to thrive, we will be demonstrating on these missions like back to the moon and on to Mars, so that we can go beyond and be able to have maybe a planet B should we need to, or if we need to habitate somewhere just to give the Earth a chance to heal, or so we can learn about sustainable innovations that may support our Earth, our life back on our own home mothership Earth. A very exciting time. We'll be learning about how to repurpose resources, how to recycle, repurpose, and upcycle, come up with even more efficient ways to do everything from break molecules, from repairing DNA or DNA or our own genome sequencing, all the way to finding ways for our bodies to adapt and sustain our muscles and our bones so that we can continue to safely and successfully perform off planet. Even the space debris. I'm working with the X Prize now, on my way to being an exhibit at the World Expo in Dubai. And in October is when that exhibit will go up. It'll be up throughout the World Expo. But in November, the X Prize that I'm working with is going to announce not 3. Yesterday I found out on our summit, we're going to have $4 million space innovation prizes that will be looking at what, not that we can do now, but what can we innovate on as solutions for 2040. And so that's going to be right in the thick of the time you all are stepping and transitioning across not just your academic degree work, but the edge of the envelope into the impossible. And we've got resources to supply you. We just need you. We need your dream engine to be ready for launch, raring to go. So with that, I'll say one quick shout out, and that's to our human body. Remember I said in only 8 minutes and 30 seconds, we are in space. Wow. Well, our body is so resilient and so adaptive. It's probably the most adaptive closed system that we can fly, because even though the longer you're in space, the more you lose muscle and bone, you already start to evolve into that very new life, extraterrestrial life form that we're going in search of. When you step off the Earth and you transition into space 250 miles above the Earth, guess what? When you come back, you are no longer the same person. Your body doesn't recognize you as that Earth launcher. You are already a new and evolving form. Your body, your brain, everything. Even though you don't feel it, after only 8 minutes and 30 seconds, as you transition into space, your body on a very microscopic biochemical level is already adapting in a way that is equivalent to if you had run 6, not 1, 6 25K marathons back to back. Can you imagine running one and then at the end of it, you're ready to do the cheering and someone taps you on the shoulder and says, great, but your finish line is the starting line. Get busy, get up. You got 5 more of these to do. That's what your body can do in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. And then in as little as 3 months, you start to feel the weakness, not because your body is trying to harm you, but it's trying to offload your energetics. It's atrophying or thinning out your muscles and demineralizing or reducing the density of your bones because you don't need all that extra mass to move around. But if you come back to a planet with gravity, like Moon 1/6 gravity, Mars 1/3 gravity, or back to Earth, suddenly your body takes a long time to readapt back to that as well. So knowing that our body has this incredible ability to adapt, I, as a doctor and a clinical researcher, am very excited about learning how we can harness that adaptability to regenerate our body by putting different environments and what we call physiologic stressors to it that might even help us with conditions here on Earth: trauma, concussion, aging, stroke, rehabilitation, when you sprain an ankle. And because of John Hines, right now, I'm working on my own concept that we've seen over the last 5 years can accelerate and amplify restoration. So if you sprain some soft tissue part of your limb, your arms, hand, legs, foot, ankle, or you have some kind of chronic injury or disease that makes your soft tissues always on the sore or strain side, or you just work out too hard, we now have a way to take weeks of retraining and turn it into a matter of days, and days of swelling and stiffness into a matter of minutes. And that acceleration is using concepts that we'd like to test out one day in space. The challenge is finding the right kind of sensor to show exactly, quantify what that sweet spot is. It's the Goldilocks effect. You have to put just the right kind of load that makes the body feel like gravity is on it. But if you go too much, it starts to restrict blood flow. And if you go too little, you're weightless and you still start to lose muscle. But with just the right amount, not only can you, at least on Earth, demonstrate the growth of powered muscle, you can also, after injury, very much accelerate what would be weeks on Earth into a matter of days. That's important because in as little as 6 weeks after an injury here on Earth, you can start to lose muscle if you have a severe sprain. In space, in reduced gravity, you don't have 6 weeks to recover. You have as little as 6 days before your injured soft tissue limb will start to decondition to the point where you may not be able to rehabilitate it. So to have something that can accelerate that can be the difference between you having a zip code that is 95 MARS or coming all the way back home. The difference between you being a Mars visitor or a Mars resident. So let's make sure we all come back safely. Personally, I want to keep on going. You know, burn the oars when you get to the shore because there's so much more out there. But for everyone else, let's solve this so that we can go to space and come back home just so that we can go back and beyond.